Many of you know the man on the screen by his nickname, but his real name is Les Gold. Back in 2009 he was at the center of the TV program known as Hardcore Pawn. This show documented a giant pawn shop that saw more than 1,000 people a day walk through its doors. And talking about the largest pawn shop in the city of Detroit, American Jewelry and Loan. The owner is Les Gold. Today you will witness the founding of the business you know as Hardcore Pawn, its subsequent rise and its eventual fall. In short, I will explain what happened to Les Gold and the other people on the show. If you're ready, let's begin. Les Gold was born on June 20, 1950 in Detroit, Michigan. He stepped into the pawnbroking business as a child in his father's shop, making his first sale at the young age of 7. He started his first independent venture at 12, buying pizzas and selling them by the slice to students at his school years past, and he finally got the opportunity to start his own business in 1972. Les opened his own pawn shop, American Jewelry and Loan, in the Green 8 Shopping Center in Oak Park. This was the turning point here. He could both make a name for himself and show how good he was at his job. In 1993 he moved his shop to a 50,000 square foot building in Detroit that was previously a bowling alley. Within a short time the shop began to welcome nearly 1,000 customers a day. Les Gold was a tough-looking man. He was quite cunning and just as experienced. To put it simply, he was a master of negotiation, honed by years in the business. So how did the pawn shop Les moved to Detroit turn into a television program? This is where True TV comes into the picture, as True TV was investing in reality-themed programs, a rising trend at the time. Les Gold's shop was a perfect fit. This massive shop, established on a 50,000 square foot area, attracted thousands of customers daily. True TV wanted to bring this rich flow of customers to a TV program. That's why they made a deal with Les and created a show called Hardcore Pawn. At the center of the program was Les Gold. Of course it wasn't just Les. I haven't mentioned them until this part of the video, but he has 2 children, Seth Gold and Ashley Gold. Seth has a calm, rational and system-focused personality. Ashley on the other hand is competitive, honest but prone to outbursts. Both were part of the Hardcore Pawn program. Of course the team wasn't just 3 people. Here is someone who became a favorite of most viewers, Rich Pyle, with his long straight beard, biker vibe and friendly demeanor. Rich wasn't just an ordinary employee, he was one of the men who carried the heart of the shop. He worked the register, made deals, provided security and even tried to resolve physical altercations with customers. Although he sometimes clashed with Les and Seth, for the viewers he was the soul of the shop. The program, which started with this core cast, quickly garnered significant attention because Hardcore Pawn was not just a shopping show, it was like a family drama, a class struggle and a psychological thriller all in one. Up to this point you have witnessed who Les Gold is, the founding of Hardcore Pawn and its cast. Now let's speed up the timeline and watch the program's rise together. In every episode hundreds of customers came to the shop to sell their belongings or pawn them for cash. The items were ordinary watches, rings, televisions, but the stories behind them were much heavier. A father was pawning his gold chain to pay for his daughter's hospital bills. A woman was selling her television to avoid becoming homeless. Another man was losing his mind because he couldn't pay his debt. The audience wasn't just watching transactions, they were witnessing the most vulnerable moments of the human spirit, and in the midst of it all, Les' strong but tense leadership, Ashley's explosive temper, Seth's intelligent but passive attitude, and finally Rich's street smarts and connection with the public balanced this chaos. The program achieved national success in a very short time. Les Gold wrote a book and appeared on talk shows. Seth became a recognized figure in the business world. Ashley became a symbol of female entrepreneurship, and Rich Pyle became almost as famous as a rock star. As success grew, so did the conflicts. The first crack deepened between Ashley and Seth. Ashley wanted to be a partner in management and demanded a say in everything. Seth found her emotional and uncontrollable, thinking he was better suited to run the company alone. There was a sibling rivalry in the office, with them often fighting, working behind each other's backs and constantly complaining to Les. Ashley was suspended from work several times. Due to these incidents, Seth dismissed some employees to change the course of business. Of course the conflicts and tensions were not limited to this. The program contained a great deal of tension, and the most notable of these was the firing of Rich Pyle. Yes, one of the viewers' most beloved characters suddenly disappeared for a season. Rich was abruptly fired due to managerial disagreements with Seth. His sister Ashley did not support this decision. Les Gold was undecided, but in the end Seth had his way. Rich's departure shook not only the screen but also the hearts of the viewers. It was also quite strange that Les Gold, despite being the boss, couldn't overrule Seth. After being fired, Rich turned to his own projects, signing on for a reality show project called Burn My Ride. However, he could never quite recapture the charisma he had on Hardcore Pawn. By 2015 the program was slowly fading. Ratings had begun to drop. True TV wanted to focus more on comedy. The conflicts within the Gold family's business had also become uncontrollable. The program was never officially cancelled, but a farewell episode was never aired. One morning Hardcore Pawn was suddenly removed from the broadcast schedule as if it had never begun. Viewers flooded social media with reactions. Ashley never returned to the program. Seth and Les Gold remained at the head of the business, but there was no trace of the former glory. Hardcore Pawn was perhaps one of the most striking reality shows on American television. This production was a story of a father and his two children's battle for power. It was the naked reflection of poverty on screen. It was a social mirror that sometimes made the audience laugh and sometimes made them think. These days Les is still at the head of American Jewelry and lone Seth Gold manages the corporate side of the business. Ashley Gold has moved in a completely different direction. She no longer wants to work with her father and brother. She currently runs her own business in the fashion and jewelry sector. Rich, one of the viewers' favorites, is doing independent work, occasionally dabbling in music and television. In conclusion, we can summarize the downfall of this four-person team as follows. For a time they were all first-hand representatives of the stories behind secondhand goods. It's not easy to be a king in a pawn shop, especially if that kingdom is built within the family. Hardcore Pawn may have been erased from the screen, but the impact it left was real, as complex as reality, and as unforgettable.